So, I've tried to keep quiet on this topic because every other time I've tried to bring it up, I have been essentially told to sit down and shut up, or that I'm no better than a cis man trying to pull a "what about all men" derailment. So, before I get into this, I want to remind everyone, and I mean every fucking one, that trans women are women and trans men are men. And this video is about my feelings and my experiences dealing with being transgender and the walls that I personally have been running into when dealing with feminists, non-feminists, anti-feminists, MRAs, members of the manosphere, and just people in general. I see stories about trans women in the news quite often, as well as stories about them on various media outlets, from feminist sources to anti-feminist sources. The problem I have with this is that stories about trans men tend to be far rarer and are often only newsworthy when the trans man has fully transitioned. I hear talks about the bathroom bills going around, and when I try to speak up about my personal fears of using the bathroom matching my gender versus the extreme discomfort and even fear of using the bathroom matching what I currently look like, I get frowned upon as if I'm taking away from the conversation about trans women, even though the bathroom bills affect both trans men and trans women. Now, let me point something out. I have been catcalled and fucking harassed for using the bathroom matching my gender. Do you have any idea how hard it is to take a piss while there are guys trying to stare through the stalls and are catcalling and making comments at you on the other side? I've been harassed and yelled at just for using the women's bathroom because I still look female, just because people either assume I'm a trans woman because I'm starting to dress and act and somewhat look like one, or like more masculine, I should say, and that makes them uncomfortable, or that I'm a trans man and I don't belong there. I think the only other one was that I was some sort of butch lesbian that was going to rape somebody's child. I mean, fuck. Even using family bathrooms gets me fucking yelled at because those are for families, and how dare I take up a bathroom just for myself? Meh. I can't fucking win for losing. When I try to speak up during discussions about reproductive rights, I have actually been told that the majority of people who become pregnant are cis women, so that is why trans men are pretty much excluded. Never mind the fact that we can and do become pregnant. Never mind that we can and do develop breast cancer at the same rate as cis women. Never mind the fact that until we have a fucking hysterectomy, we still have periods and have to deal with the same physical shit that cis women do. Since we are a minority, we apparently don't matter in the discussion as much as cis women do. Heck, that was the main reason I stopped volunteering for Planned Parenthood. I tried bringing up the fact that we were being excluded as trans men, and I basically got told, be quiet, we're talking about the people that matter. And just let that sink in for a moment. Because up until very recently, trans men were actually excluded almost completely from the conversation about reproductive rights. And yet somehow we're the bad guy if we try to bring up that we can and do experience a lot of the same things that cis women experience in their daily lives until we have fully transitioned. I think that is, I think one of the biggest stress points that is that if I try to speak out about trans men and trans men's issues, among most feminists, I get looked down on for taking away from the fight cis women and trans women are dealing with. If I try to bring up issues that I deal with as a trans man in feminist groups, I basically get told to stop speaking about men's issues and that I'm trying to derail the conversation, even if I am the one who started the fucking conversation. I get treated as if I am a cis man that has lived as a man his entire life and that I am trying to worm my way into people's private spaces. Forget the fact that I still deal with many of the same issues as cis women deal with, or that I'm trying to point out that we are excluding a chunk of the population who also need help with various things that cis women also need help with. I'm just that fucking evil man over there, apparently. Fuck that person, right? They're a man now. I have even been told that since I am a man, I cannot be a feminist. I have yet to be told when I stopped being a feminist, since I did have to live most of my life as a woman, and I have only been out as a trans man for 2 years. Can somebody tell me when my feminist membership expired and when my male privilege package will arrive? Because I have given birth. I have had periods since I was 10 years old. I have lived like cis women have lived. And I have shared their experiences. I have shared their stigma. I have dealt with the socialization issues and all of that. But now that I'm a man, I'm suddenly an enemy. Even among men's rights groups or men's groups, I and other trans men are looked down on as lesser men, and we often have to fight extra hard just to be treated even close to equally. If I try to bring up my issues with the majority of cis men that I deal with, I'm laughed at and told I'm not a real man, or I'm told that I'm just trying to get in on their little club, or that I'm never going to be good enough to be a real man because I wasn't born a real man. Even if I get a fake dick and everything, I'll never be a proper man. I get told things like I'm actually just a butch woman, or I kid you not, I get told, why don't you get back in the kitchen and make me a sandwich? You can come out when you look like a real man. I don't care if they are just trying to joke around with me or treat me like just one of the guys, because apparently that's how you play around as men. This shit still hurts, especially when you are being stigmatized by people who used to be your peers and now by people who you're trying to work with. I have had to fight tooth and fucking nail for recognition pretty much every day. Outside of fully transitioned men, I hear the same story over and over about how trans men have to constantly fight not to be excluded or overlooked. Yes, this makes me bitter. This makes me feel like trans women are hogging the spotlight and the news when it comes to trans issues. Yes, I get tired of being told to sit down and shut up when I try to bring up trans men's issues when discussing trans issues. Transgender issues are not just trans women issues. So when I get told to be quiet or that I'm trying to impose my will on others by talking about trans men's issues, I get fucking pissed off. Up until recently, as a trans man, I have found it difficult to find resources to help me with how to deal with my dysphoria, workouts to help me achieve a more masculine body. In fact, the search results used to actually ask me if I meant trans women or MTF workouts instead of FTM. And my selection of tools, such as packers and binders, are still quite small. When compared to the resources that trans women have, it leaves me feeling quite overlooked and ignored. If I try to bring up an issue that trans men deal with, I have to work extra hard to prove that I deserve to speak. I am treated as someone who has full-blown male privilege while also having full-blown female stigma. I can't fucking win for motherfucking losing. Feminists get angry at me because I bring up men's issues, even if they are the same fucking thing as women's issues. If I bring up that trans men deal with period problems or cramping or breast cancer fears, it's as if I'm speaking some sort of alien language and all they are hearing is me screaming, "What about the men?" Anti-feminists tend to just dismiss me when I bring up issues trans men deal with because of whatever pet reason they have for the week. Usually it's the sex equals gender bullshit, or there's only two genders, or you're just making it up, or I'm an attack helicopter. And basically trying to talk with them is like trying to talk to a dog that is chased and caught a parked car. And the manospherians tend to just dismiss me as someone who is not man enough. I'm a beta. And so my issues don't count because, as we all know, only manly men get to speak about things and manly men don't talk about their problems. I am fucking tired of standing in the shadow of other people, especially other trans people who then play the fucking oppression Olympics when I call them out on their fucking shit. I am tired of the fucking double standard that applies to trans people, where trans women have apparently never experienced male privilege, and yes, this is actually an argument that I was fucking given, and yet trans men apparently have never experienced female stigma and have always had male privilege. Yeah, my package apparently got fucking lost in the mail. People can't have it both ways. If a trans woman has lived a chunk of her life as a man and was fucking socialized as a man, she will have certain thought patterns and traits that are masculine. It is basically being forced to live as a man. She will have aspects of male privilege even after she fully transitions. That is why trans women have to take fucking classes on how to be a woman. And yeah, those classes actually fucking exist. I've had to listen about them from way too many trans women to doubt that those things exist. Trans men deal with what is known as female stigma. And if you don't know what that is, fucking Google it like the rest of the adults are expected to fucking do. I'm tired of being expected to provide everyone with the fucking answers and knowledge, only to have those very same people who demand information to throw it away and say they won't accept it for whatever reason they fucking pull out of their ass. Yes, once trans men fully transition, they begin to see and experience male privilege. There's videos on that. There is no denying that. Just as when a trans woman fully transitions, she will begin to feel and experience female stigma. There's a huge fucking difference, though. There are far too many trans women that I have dealt with personally who fucking refuse to give up their male privilege even after transitioning. And there are far too many cis and trans women who assume that the fucking moment a trans man comes out, he will have full-blown male privilege and has never dealt with female stigma. Trans men who have to fucking fight for the very privilege that trans women sometimes refuse to give up. And yet somehow we are the fucking bad guys. We are the evil ones. Trans men have to fucking fight to break away from the female stigma that permeates our very existence. The fucking stigma that was forced upon us by a society. And yet there are people out there who will flat out deny that we have ever lived the lives that we have experienced, all because we have come out as a fucking man. I am fucking tired of having to fight on all fronts. I am fucking tired of having to fight just to prove I am fucking worthy of being treated as a fucking human being. But most of all, I'm just fucking tired.